For this lesson, we are going to be looking at simple interest. So interest is how much is paid for the use of money. Really, what's important to note is that it costs to borrow money. It'd be nice if people just gave us money with no strings attached, but they will lend you money, but they're going to make you pay interest for that, so that in the end, you're actually going to owe more than what you borrowed. It is a percent of the money borrowed. So some terms to know. First off is principal, which is going to be noted by the variable P, which is the amount of money borrowed or invested in. So you can earn interest if you invest money, or you might owe interest if you are borrowing money. Then is rate, which we are going to use the variable R for. So the rate is the percent charged or earned, and the most important part is that it is as a decimal. So remembering, if you have like 4.5% as a decimal, that is 0.045, because you move the decimal, whoops, not that way, once, twice to the left. And then the last thing, T, is time. And specifically, this is talking about time in years. So if we have something like 3 months, that equals 3 out of 12 months. Or you could write that as a decimal 0.25. The formula that we are going to be using is I equals PRT. So your interest is equal to your principal times your rate as a decimal times the time in years. So let's look at example number 1. Matt James borrows $10,000 for 5 years at a yearly interest rate of 4.5%. How much total interest will he pay? So again, we are using this formula, I equals PRT. So I'm going to plug in the different parts. And I'm just going to highlight it for this first one. So our principal is the amount that he's borrowing. Our rate is that percentage rate, which we're going to convert to a decimal. And our time is the time here in years. So I'm going to plug that information in. We don't know the interest. That is what we are solving for. Our principal is 10,000 times 4.5% as a decimal, 0.045. And our time, 5 years. So when we are solving for the interest, it's actually pretty easy because all we have to do is plug that all into the calculator. So 10,000 times 0.045 times 5, which is $2,250. So the interest that would be owed is $2,250. Number 2. Meredith deposited $2,600 in an account that has a 4% yearly interest rate. She earned $52 in interest. How long was the money invested? So again, we are using our equation, I equals PRT. We have our principal amount given to us. That's what was deposited into the bank that she's earning interest on. We have our rate of 4%. And this time, we have an interest value that was earned of $52. And we are solving for, it says how long. That means we are solving for the time. So I'm going to plug in what we know. We know our interest is 52. We know our principal is 2,600. Our rate, 4% as a decimal, is 0.04. And we are solving for the time. So that is our unknown this time. So what I'm going to do first is, so we've got an equation we need to solve, but I'm going to simplify on this side of the equation first. So I'm going to multiply 2,600 times 0.04, which gives me 104. And then I'm bringing everything else down. So I'm bringing down the 52. I'm bringing down our variable of t. So our t is being multiplied by 104. The opposite is to divide by 104. On the side with the variable, it should cancel, and we're left with just t. On this side, when I divide 52 divided by 104, we get 0.5. So either we can leave this and say it's 0.5 years, or some of you might want to convert that to 6 months. Either one is fine. Number 3, Jacob borrowed $960.50 at a yearly interest rate of 5.75% for 6 months. How much interest will he owe, first off? And then how much total money will he owe after 6 months, after the 6 months are up? So again, we've got our equation, I equals PRT. We have the amount that was borrowed, that principal amount. We have our interest rate of 5.75. And we have our time as 6 months. So we are solving for the interest, and then we're going to figure out the total money owed. So I equals our principal of $960 times our rate, 5.75 is 0.0575, times our time, 6 months. Maybe right away you can convert that and say that's half a year, so 0.5, or you can plug it into the calculator as 6/12. So if you wanted to plug this all in at once, you can do that. You just got to be careful. How I would do it is 960 in parentheses times, in parentheses, 0.0575, close parentheses, and then new parentheses, 6 divided by 12. And that gives me 27.6, which for money, we need 2 decimal values, so I'm going to add a 0. So first part of our answer is that our interest that we owed is $26.70. I'm going to add that $27.60. I'm going to add that to the original amount that we borrowed, $960. So the total amount that is going to be owed at the end is $987.60. And last problem. Jenny borrowed $2,500 from her bank over a 9-month period. If the total interest owed was $75, what was the percentage rate? So plugging into our equation, we're going to look at what we know. We know the principal amount that was borrowed. The 9 months is talking about the time. And then this $75 is talking about the interest that was owed. So in this case, we are solving for our rate. So I'm going to plug in what we know. We know the interest is 75. Our principal is $2,500. Our rate is unknown. And our time, 9 months converted into years, you can do it as a decimal, 0.75, or again, I can plug it in as 9/12. So whenever we are given the interest, we have an equation we need to solve. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the two numbers over here to simplify on the right side of the equation. So I'm going to multiply 2,500 times 9 divided by 12, or if you convert it to a decimal, times 0.75, and we get 1,875 times our unknown rate equals our interest of 75. Next step, R is being multiplied by 1875, so we're going to divide by 1875. On the side with the variable, it cancels. On the left side, I'm going to divide 75 divided by 1875. And we got 0.04. So this isn't actually our final answer. It's not 0.04%. What we have to remember is we need to move the decimal once, twice to the right. That tells us that it's 4% for the rate.